can you see us okay? And I've got video on. Yep, that's working. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, thanks, Trish.
Good.
Good to see you and Bruce.
Yes, thank you. We've had heck of a weather here, haven't we, sunshine? It's terrible.
Yeah, it's really windy here at the moment.
We've got horizontal rain again.
Yeah, it's been tricky. We've got an hour because I want to take this guy to Stirling. Yeah, I do. He's doing really well. So I wanted to talk to you, as you know, about relevancy, okay? And you've had a good look at the other videos. Not that you need to, as long as you get a chance to look at them before you come out. And also those videos are there for you to, when he goes home, to reference. You know, if you're not sure about anything, you can just check in with the video and have a look and find out how to go through the processes of things. And you're not going to, I think I mentioned to you, Karen, there's loads of different models in there for different occasions, for different reasons. And it means that you've got a toolbox of resources you can dip in and out of. But really, it's really important that you start off with the obedience stuff first. The communication's key. It'd be so easy to go home and do all the games and the high adrenaline stuff, but you can only do that once you've got them on the same page as you want them. Hey, sunshine. So, what do you guys, does it mean anything to you when I talk about relevancy?
No.
Okay, I want you to think, it's quite a common term in dog training across the globe. I want you to think about, and people will have a different take on it. So this is the way I've worked it, and through the people I've been working with. So I want you to think about how relevant you are to Bruce. Okay? Bruce. You see him having a wee lad. That's Andrew just sneaking off and not disturbing me.
Hi, Andrew.
Hiya. Bye.
He's away next to us. So we've got, this is quite a big house, and Rosalie, who's the therapist for the centre, she's now retired. We kind of share this area, but this is the dog area. This is where I do all my training and I sleep and all the rest of it. But the door to go through to the rest of the house is just in the kitchen. So Andrew's snuck off there. So he spends a lot of time looking after his mum and making sure she's getting what she doesn't cook or anything like that. So she never has done. She just is pretty rubbish at that sort of thing. Anyway, so relevancy. How relevant do you think you are to Bruce? What does that mean to you? Have a think about it.
Well, really, at the moment, we were slaves for him, really, I think, for his food, for his... So, very relevant for food and exercise, is that what you mean?
So you were relevant for food and exercise. So tell me, when you took Bruce out, how relevant were you then?
Relevant for his safety.
Were you?
I think so.
Do you think Bruce saw that?
Probably not.
Right, so what's important here, and this is really good that you're answering this way, because it helps us critically think about what this means. Through his eyes, how relevant? Not through the eyes you think he should be seeing through, but in actual fact, I know it looks like a wee elephant. In actual, stay here so your mum and dad can see you. In actual fact, when you're outside and he sees another dog, tell me what happens.
So, where I was a pack member, not the pack leader when we were out, so he's, well, not protecting, but taking the lead when we're outside, is it?
Do you think that's what's going on there?
Yeah.
Do you think he's protecting you?
No.
Do you think he's thinking,
Well,
I'm with my pack, I'm going to be the pack leader?
maybe it was irrelevant, I don't know.
So what do you think is happening when you're holding a leash, whoever one of you is holding a leash, and he sees, no darling, up it goes, onto place. He sees something he wants. Good. Let your mum and daddy see you. That's why I
He's
keep
just
you.
going to get it, because he's the one at the front, in the one with the power, so...
Does he even know you're behind him when he's like that?
No.
So how relevant are you? You're not getting that.
Not at all at that point.
So what do you think you are to him at that point? I'll tell you, because we could go on for it.
Yeah.
What you are is just something that's holding the leash back. You're a pressure, that's all. You're something. So you don't exist. So, say for instance, I want you to think about this. You're walking along the road and there's a ball on the ground. What happens? What does Bruce do?
He's going to go for the ball.
So, tell me, between you and the ball, who's more relevant?
The ball.
Okay, now, tell me something that he has not paid attention to you and it's barely anything. Something that versus you. I'll give you an example. This is a discussion I had this week with a dog trainer colleague of mine, and she's in California, and she's teaching a puppy who is very hard work. It's a Labrador puppy, and she's saying to me, they've got a little pool out there, because everyone in California does. You know these noodles, they're like polystyrene straws, tubes, that people, they lean on them, and they're called pool noodles. She says, oh, he's crazy, he knows that if he's on a long line, he'll lift the end of it so I can't get him, and he runs away from me, and then we had the noodles out, and I'm trying to get him, and he's getting the noodle, and I'm saying to her, your noodle is more relevant to that dog than you are, and you're the dog trainer. Think about that. The noodle means more. So, the reason that's important to look at relevancy is because exactly what you said, Karen, earlier, it can keep your dog safe if you're relevant to them. So you guys have to work hard at becoming more relevant to him. If he is busy running after a leaf, can you imagine? That leaf means more than you. So, so in a natural pack, that would never happen. It would never happen. Never. Because dogs would die. They always look to the rest of the pack and the leader of the pack. So it's up to us to get into his space and his head, where we are more relevant, you two are more relevant than anything else in the world to him. Now, let me talk about what that means in terms of need. So, as humans, in this society, we have infrastructure and services. We've got power, protection, whatever you think, police protection. We've got warmth. We have housing, some of us, and we have a welfare state. So whatever goes wrong, we have over time support networks that have been paid for by our taxes. You know, we paid for that. The actual paying for it and the developing of it are different things. So it's taken a long time for us to have all these things, you know, in place. You've got the guy that delivers your coal or your wood or your whatever. You've got shops that are open. So our need is almost like your considered disposable income, if you think of it in terms like that. Our needs are happiness, comfort, okay, nice food. You know, we could survive on porridge or gruel or whatever, but we want nice things, entertainment, a job we enjoy. We want to be able to walk out our front doors if we've been sitting on our asses all day at a computer, Mark, and have a run. We have the freedom of that because we've got good shoes, reasonable health, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So those are our needs. kind of luxury stuff. A dog's need, because they're way more primal than ours, the most important thing for them is at the top of this triangle, food. Cover, safety. So cover and safety can come together. Food, cover, safety. That's all they need. That's what they need to survive. So when we want affection, and I'll come back to this whole, we need to cuddle because that's what we need. That's where we are in the triangle of requirements. And we're able to reason that out. What he needs to be motivated to do what you want is food and cover. Okay. And obviously, if you are becoming more relevant to your dog, he will see you as food and cover. That's what you want, food and cover. So when we want affection, because that's what we need, there is like a whole continent of difference between what he needs to make him appreciate us. You know, dogs don't cuddle each other, and we talked about this, so he doesn't care about that. And what this dog in particular, I never really like doing this, looking back in time and trying to figure out, but between Andrew's hair tests and the work I've been doing for him, it is pretty clear that he has been trained probably as a hunting dog in a pretty harsh, basic environment, but that, for him, is probably perfect, okay? Because it suits his need. He understands that. There's a clear message between yes and no. No, there's a consequence for if you're doing a behaviour, and he learns that really quickly. Okay, I don't do that. Apart from the environmentals with their dog. And yes, he understands, I want to work. This is what I do. This is great. I'm really encouraged. I'll do whatever it takes to fit in with the pack, and that's his priority. All the other stuff doesn't really matter to him. So, because I think he's had, you know, we were practicing last night. Andrew was doing down with him, and he would first of all say down, and I'm saying, now I wasn't in the room because I like them working individually. I was next in my bedroom, so I'm saying lower your voice, down, down, down. I said now almost whisper it, and each time he was going down, but what takes his attention is the strong nature of the instruction initially. So we have to do something about almost putting ourselves, and it can be against our own characters, to be pretty, almost businesslike. So initially, and this isn't forever, you're going to have to be business as usual. And what I think works is if people can imagine that their dog's actually mine, and you're training the dog for me when he goes home. Because it's so difficult to take away that emotion of it's our dog, we've rescued him, he loves us, and we're trying to do the right thing. So just sweep the house clean of kind of all that stuff and allow yourself to be the dog trainers. And he will respond way better to that. That's kind of what he's looking for. The other things just, it confuses him. And he will have all the jolly stuff going on, but for him, it's instruction. And because he's, now, how old do we think he is again?
2 to 3, we think.
Yeah.
They said 3 at the rescue, but I don't know whether they...
So imagine all his life, and Andrew, I'm going to do a video with Andrew and send it to you because I don't know all the ins and outs of how this works, and he's a therapist, but he's tested him, and when he looks back at what this dog needs, and it's simple stuff to get him through, it goes way back to puppyhood. So it's not something that's happened recently. It's more to do with probably his management as a dog before you got him. And when I think about the way he responds to training and all the rest of it, and just the way he is, it feels like he's been in a hunting environment or a pack working environment, and somehow he's landed, luckily, with you guys. But for him to be in that environment all his life, and it's all he's known, then the transition into being a pet dog with a non-reactive brain, because that reactivity is what you want. You want a feisty working dog. Good dog, yeah, brilliant. Look at me. That kind of, you know it. But we have to give him that opportunity to slowly remove himself. And in humans, that can take a long time for you to put your past behind you, something that's influenced you, something that's worked for you and kept you alive for possibly 3 years every day. So this is why he thinks he's doing the right thing. When he sees another dog and he goes into reactivity, his first response is, this is what I'm supposed to do, because he probably was in that environment. I never saw your message last night, I just quickly read 2 lines of it asking if it was food. No, this is him. This isn't food, and it's not aggression in that way. It's more reactivity, but if he climbs up that ladder of reactivity, he will go. Definitely there will be a fight. There's no doubt about it. He's not reacting that way because he wants to go and play with them. That is serious stuff. So what I'm trying to do is take that reactivity down a notch so we can have him around dogs, which he is with my guys, and then start to reintroduce his adrenaline, but for play. So it's fairly tricky. And he's now learning this sort of no nonsense, we're not going to react to strange dogs when we're out. So I've been using, actually reacts to the tone button on the collar a lot. So the tone, if you hold it for 2.4 seconds, then goes on to the stimulation. So we had a Frenchie here last night. One of my friends brought their dog down. We had out on the road, and he went, and it has loads of energy, this Frenchie. It's a dog that can cause a fight in a phone box, and it's not aggressive, it's just overexcited. It does it. And worked him, took a couple of pops of the tone button that went onto the stim, and he was just like, no, okay, I'm just going to walk beside you. So he just left like that. But then I know the process, so that's why I want him here a little longer so I can work him through this. And we've got another 2 dogs, strange dogs, that he's going to see today. Plus, I'm going to take him after this into Stirling Centre, which is on lockdown, so I'm kind of hoping it's still as busy with people just hanging about. Can you see him sleeping here?
Yeah.
He's in a wee ball. So,
Can't see his head, just his bum.
so whatever you do with them, I want you to think about how relevant you are in that moment to him. You're not just the hand that puts the food in the bowl. You're not just the thing at the end of the leash, and you can tell how relevant you are when, hang on, your dog is straining. Come on, I'll let you over here. Oh, it moved. You're levitating. Here. Let's move it over.
He thinks he did it on his own.
These are magic carpets. Oh. Stuck. Come on, mate. Up.
Trish, will we cover body language as well?
Yeah, well, everything. Yeah.
The dog.
We're going to do claiming space off him, and once I've had this wee chat with you, and part of that will cover the body language too. So it's really, I suppose, up to you guys to look at yourself through his eyes. Now, if you've ever had the chance where the dog's gone for something and you go to pull him back and he goes for you, that's how relevant you are. You're just a thing to stop him. He's not even thinking about you in that split minute. He's not thinking about that your hand is attached to him. He's just knows something really annoying is stopping me, and you get off. So that means that's not. I mean, he done that here when he first turned up, and I don't know, you were here, Mark, but he actually bit me when I was just pulling his collar around or something, because he was so excited about everything else. You know, he wasn't targeting to bite me, but he was in such a frenzied mood, he ended up biting me. So, he doesn't know he's doing it, he's losing his head. That's not a good place for him to be. But he would never do that now because I'm relevant to him. and wherever I go, he's not blind to his environment, because I don't like that. A lot of the IPO dogs do that, where they don't see anything else but the owner. You want him to be aware of his environment, but you want him to not care about it, and the only thing he's going to care about, Mark, is you. Yeah, but they can also be, when you go running with him, he can have his sniffs because and enjoy the environment. But if suddenly you duck down, you want him to be, where is he? Where's my dad? Because you're relevant. With him, he just takes a couple of steps away when he first came, and he was disengaged. 2 steps on a short leash, totally disengaged. So on a long line, I've got him now, on a long line, he's looking back, coming back to me, and he's doing that himself, because over time, because our communication's so great, he knows I'm relevant. And he knows as well, because of the way that we are, and that, food, I'm relevant because I'm keeping him safe and I'm giving him food. And that are the two, not because I'm giving him, and he is getting cuddles from me because, well, I've earned it. I'm doing all the other things, so I can do the affection, because I know he's doing what he's been asked, and he wants to please. So, relevancy. Lots of people, they look at their dog, and even the trainers, and they're saying, oh, you're doing what you're told, you're having a good time, you're doing your obedience stuff, but they're not relevant to the dog. They're not. The dog's not thinking, you are my main person. It doesn't mean to say that when you make yourself relevant, that he wouldn't come here and then think about you and miss you, because he doesn't. He won't do that. He adapts. He still loves and sees you and all the rest of it. But you want to be, when you're with him, relevant. Okay, you don't want him to have separation anxiety or anything, because if you're relevant, it means that when you put your dog into either place or into his crate or whatever, and you go out, he's calm because you've said that's what you've to do. You've to be calm. We'll be back. So you're not looking for the relevancy of, oh my God, I can't survive without them. So it's a different. You just need time to get that in your head to think about it. So that's the rain absolutely pouring down now. Do you want to ask me any questions about anything you've seen, so I can just take a break from talking constantly, and then we can go on to space stuff?
It's not something particular about what we've seen, but I know it's been discussed. So, when he first comes home, we're going to be a bit more emotionless, to get on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point in the future, we might start having a bit more, like what we do is, in the morning, come down, see him, goes out, does his wee, and I'll make a tea, and then we'll go upstairs. So that, so then he's on the bed. So he doesn't have access to the bed all the day. It's just, that's the time we go upstairs and see Mum. So, of course, it's probably not good to do that for a period of time until, we've kind of restructured ourselves. But what kind of timeline do you think that normally is? And I guess it always depends a bit on the dog. But is it typically 3 months sounds like a good...
It depends on you, Mark, as well, not just the dog.
Well, so it's a great question, because you still can, even when you are putting in place... when we're talking about emotionless, we're talking about in a way that we perceive that. Like, I'm sharing love with him right now. Andrew's very relevant to the dogs. The dogs check in on him, so he doesn't cuddle them because they're in training, but they'll come up, nudge them, check in, sit down, sharing love. So we are still we're still full of love and emotion. I wouldn't put all the time in and the patience and the repetition if I didn't I love your dog. When your dog's here, I'm his mum. They get all the same as all the rest of the dogs. But I know what you mean about I know what you're saying about emotion. Now, when he comes in and he's got a calm mind, that's when you can give that's when you're going to say, I love you, and pet him. But you're not going to take him out in that position and put him on the bed because that's what you want. We want him to feel confident and calm away from you, right? So we don't want them to always be panicking and needing what they want. We're doing this because of love. But yes, there will be that period of time. I always say keep up what you're going to be doing, which is your active training, which will be, if you've got time, at least 15 minutes day one, and then you can take that up 5 minutes at a time, and you'll do a bit of threshold in place, and that's for the and it should be in your homework. I sent you a document with half of what you have to do. So you implement that. So, but the rest of the time, the training is duration work. So he's still working because he's policing himself. I know he's sleeping and quite happily nestling there, but he's not getting up and wandering about. So he's disciplining himself. So he's still working. But this is when you can be affectionate with him. What we're not having him do is that it's the postman. Shh, it's okay, Bo. Bo likes a good fight with any noise. He's a French bulldog. They always like, yeah, what battle? It's the postman. What we don't want them to do is be elevated, because that gives them the same rights as you, and for him to feel those things which is safe and fed, they have to feel that you're higher than them. And that, if you think of the first consult I did with you, which was about being leader of the pack and not acknowledging and all that kind of stuff, that to them is love. I know we feel differently about that. 90 days is generally what I say to keep them in that whole management situation and doing all your training. But the dog will tell you, as you say. The thing is, if you go forward 3 steps with the dog's training and you become my dog trainer with my dog, but you have a week period and you take your dog up and you cuddle your dog, you've set him back. But that's not love. That's for you. You know, you need to be strong for your dog, because it makes it harder for him. It makes it more difficult for him. And because he's thinking, well, what am I doing here? So that's why I say hold your affection, because he's sort of vibrating and existing at a crazy place because he's had what I would consider probably quite a rough and strict upbringing, and then he goes into where it's all love and cuddles. So it's like it's going to make him lose his shit. He's just going to go, what do I do? But Mark, what's your job?
Well, I used to work as part of IBM Lab Services consultancy for 10 years. I've been freelance. I've worked around the country, but different countries as well. But I've left IBM. I joined a partner company now, but it's still doing the same thing.
Software. So you're working to a client to do programming or something like that, some IT-based stuff.
Yeah, IT and business related. You know, so it could be changing the way a business works in some cases.
So, changing the way a business works. So your client asks you to present your ideas, and you presumably do over a format like this, do you?
Yeah, similar, yeah. So you go in, you sit down, you listen to understand what the pain points are, you observe what's going on in the room, who's doing what, who the people are, and you go away and kind of think about it, and you'll play something back, and it's different for every company, isn't it? Because we're all doing things slightly differently.
So when you give them or present them with the information they need to change, how do you do that? I'm not talking about the format. I'm just talking about how you present yourself.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, because often I refer back to the client. I've worked for 150 different clients across all the various industries, whether it's pharmaceuticals, it could be court booking systems, prisoner movements, supermarkets. So you bring a wealth of information that you've seen similar problems elsewhere.
So that's one thing. That is one thing. People will, because by the time you get older, you can't help but bring a ton of information, because simply by being alive for longer than someone who's 19, you're going to have that. But there's something else. Why should they invest in you? Why should they believe you?
Well, you've got a track record in success.
Other than the track record and success, because anybody can make up that
the
stuff.
confidence in where you present yourself.
Yes.
Because you can't be seen as being a weak person. And
But tell me this though. Imagine you were. Hang on a minute. I know we're having a meeting just now. I just need a cuddle from my dog. Do you think they're going to invest in you? They're not going to believe you. So we all do that. We all put, although I'm sure Colin's my best pal. Colin and Andrew would say, yeah, this is what Tricia is. So we're all doing what we're told. But there is, we have to paint a picture for people to believe us in life. When I walk around a chemist, there's nothing worse in the cities than being followed around a makeup counter because you look like you're going to thieve something. Because that's they're all about. So you present a way of like, I am going to steal anything and get the hell away from me. I'm choosing.
You're good at that. You are good at that. Mark's really, really good at that.
And if you sense, so you present yourself as being professional, basically, in the word. But if you sense that somebody's off, disingenuous, if you're not getting a full story, it makes you wary. And there's no evidence to even back that up, and it makes you wary. Now imagine a dog who senses the world, and they have to draw on those senses. Those senses have to be so attuned. Imagine a dog that senses the world in that way to find the loophole that means that they could die for survival. They are honed like a shark to sense weakness and softness, because the implications of that are death. Now, that's another issue. There's one thing about cuddling your dog. There's also an issue about appearing soft. Now, when you see me work with them, because I'm out during the day, you'll maybe see the videos I'll be at night. I'm knackered. I look at myself and I've not got that pop. I know I'm tired. I'm looking at the videos thinking, these are shite. I look knackered. The dog's just going along with it because I'm relevant. But he knows that I'm tired and he can sense that. He knows it. I know it. I've got a pack here, sometimes 9 dogs, and they sense it. We're knackered. And I'm the leader. So I have to be on it. So I always have to think of myself, are you strong? Are you present? Are you calm? And then I engage, because they will pull you apart to make sure that they're in, I mean, they don't see it in terms of I'm going to live or die. It's instinct to them. This isn't right, so that's going to happen. So if you are soft in character, which is a nice thing to be, just be aware of how that impacts upon your dog, and that's why we have tools like the tools do the work that we can't do, and it could take us 4 years to stop, 5 years, 6 years to stop the reactivity, but the tools help us shortcut that. But we still have to have intention behind the tool, or they know it's just a button. So you have to believe in yourself, and that takes a bit of work, and it's not easy because we have to look in on ourselves. And when I do this work, this training work with people's lives, and this isn't to do with me, it's just some of the subject matter that we look at. People change their lives. You know, I've had people leave here and within 2 weeks give up their job, go to college and become another something, like a vet's assistant, or they get involved in a sport or whatever, because they're spending time reflecting, who am I, why am I here, what am I doing, what's the impact I'm having on the world around me, blah blah blah, critical thinking. So it's a bit more of a personal development journey, and the honest to God truth is that your dog will show you exactly what you are. And it's about being brave enough to look at that and make the changes. And even if you act it for a while, so Clint Eastwood is someone I would always go to in my head when I was doing anything entirely different. I used to go away a lot myself. I mean, you guys will be used to this because you've travelled and that. And I would just think, what would Clint do? and that, because we're all vulnerable, and that in my head would keep me kind of grounded. Okay, be brave, be confident. This is what Clint Eastwood do, and he's a human being, so why the hang? So when you start acting, it becomes who you are. But they will tell you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I don't mean to sound like I'm lecturing.
No. I mean, when you look back, and it is so obvious, isn't it? But it's almost like being in that work mode. You know, I go into the work mode. I'm presenting this thing. I'm still the same person, but when I come home and see Karen, I change.
No, it's me.
No. So I think it's about giving, projecting that to Bruce.
Yeah. And it is all, if you think about it, when you're even with your friends, you know, if you meet your friends outside, you're still a different person with them. You're not all cuddly, and I mean, you're giving up all your vulnerabilities and affection to a dog that, one, doesn't understand what it's about, and two, is a predator. So imagine that in human terms. You find someone that you quite like, who turns out to be a sociopath, and you've given them everything. Boom, here it all is. This is me. That can destroy you in a lot of cases. So when I talk to people about what they do at work, there'll be someone that's maybe with their work colleagues, and I'll say, well, would you invite them up on your bed and have a wee picnic lunch, or would you do that? And they're like, no. Well, it's kind of the same. For him to be your baby, you have to be the parent, So, but after you get a good run, and you'll see, there's one of these border terriers. If you ever watched the Norman videos, you never saw them, did you? Did you? See Norman, and Norman's on the couch, in the bed, arms like this and legs like this now, complete cuddle monster, because he's not doing the behaviour anymore. But even then, his dad was extremely, and his dad won't mind me telling you this, he used his dog almost like a therapy dog for his emotional support, to keep him feeling like somebody loved him. And it took him a bit longer than it should have done for that dog. So that's why I was saying to Karen about when my friend, a lot of my clients become my friend. When my friend brought her dog, and the dog was biting her, and she had step ladders to try and put the food down, and then the dog for 3 hours. And I just said, get yourself a rabbit. So she got 2 house rabbits, but she desperately needed that emotional support. She got the dog from a puppy, and that's why she bought it. But now she can do all the cuddles.
Yeah.
Because you just get yourself through that hump of transition. But to be fair on him, you just have to cuddle each other.
No.
Well, anytime you fancy a trip over to Teesdale, you're welcome. You and your dogs, we've got plenty of room for people and dogs.
I thought he was going to say anytime you need to go to
Right. So, how do you, just in terms of what I've said there, Mark, I know you understand what I'm saying, but how do you feel? Am I the bitch? Basically.
No, you're not. I mean, it's just,
I am.
We kind of almost knew that. It's just that well, for me. Well, okay, I'm speaking for myself now.
What was you trying to tell you?
Yeah, so it's just now owning up to it and saying, okay, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's a gap within ourselves. So if you want to do, this is possibly the time that you might want to take to examine how you can do something for yourself there and why there is a void there. I mean, but listen, see issues in people, everyone's got them. Everyone has a background, a past, nurturing, upbringing, experiences. I mean, if you don't have them, then I'm suspicious. Because then I think you've not lived life. But we all have them, so we shouldn't be ashamed to look back and say, right, what the hell's wrong with me then? Okay, so this is about my need and me, so what am I going to do to try and address this? Or even confront it?
A question, Trish. I mean, I see people with dogs, and the dogs seem well balanced and behaved. The people are a bit, I don't agree with some of the things they do, like a lot of them are walking off the lead and in dangerous situations, and they're not skilled people looking after the dog, yet the dog seems balanced.
Yeah.
With Bruce and the Jack Russells we had before, we were, we trained them, they wouldn't be possessive with food, we'd control them, we'd have them on leads so they were safe. But it's like, how do those people who don't even have a clue what's going on in the world, it's like, the dog comes running up to you and say, can you put your dog on a lead, please? Oh, it's all right. Yeah, their dog seems more balanced and ours isn't.
Yeah.
Is it maybe just the kind of dogs we've got, because terriers are normally more feisty, and also with, somebody like Bruce, he's got a past. So I'm always kind of thinking, what are we doing that's so wrong when other people seem that it's okay, yet they're brainless, There's a main road, and they're letting the dog go running off, and they don't know the environment. The dog isn't actually that balanced, and I'm just like, how can it be that it seems more right for them and for us?
Well, I think there's a few things there. First of all, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. But the thing is, there'll be people in the same position as you with unbalanced dogs that'll get rid of the dog and get a puppy. They'll go through dogs until they get the right dog that takes care of itself. So they're lucky with dogs a lot of the time. The other thing is, there's a lot of people that are going through this because that's my job. Lots. Yes, you've got a terrier, but if you didn't have a terrier, you might have a spaniel or a hound. They've got an issue. Labradors are a flipping nightmare. The bunch of doodle crosses, whatever the hell those mongrels, they're all got problems. But you're saying, why me? Because you're sort of polarising your world to, like, believe you me, there's a lot of it going on, and we get people who are actually fantastic owners, and you're not doing anything wrong. You just needed a bit more support to get where you are. So you're actually doing a lot right, but you've just looked at your glass and seen it half empty rather than half full. But it's just there's a lot of people out there with that are disengaged from their dogs, and the dogs are getting on with it. And it could be DNA, but there's also people that might be disengaged from their dogs, but the dogs then start to maybe be mature enough or more engaged with their surroundings and what it means to them to make better decisions. But there'll be issues. There will be issues. You're just not seeing them. So you're not a victim here, actually. You two are heroes, if you can think it, okay, that way. And I always think that you get the dog that you need. You'll have heard this before, not the dog that you necessarily want, because what he's doing is teaching you. It's a gift. So you start to, the things that you know about dog training, tons of people, imagine they're going to go through their whole life not knowing that. What a void. What a shame.
Yeah.
I
have to reflect on that, on other things as well, and think, well, it'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it, if everything just slipped into place and worked, But
No. No, for a couple of months
listen, see when you start to go out, and it's not going to happen, initially you're going to take your time, but over time you'll not even realise it's happening. When you start to go out and he's not reacting, then you'll be like, whoa, look at the journey we've just travelled. That is amazing. You've turned this dog's out. I mean, this dog in any other family, that's my alarm to start the other stuff, might be put to sleep, be submit, or they'd never leave the house. I mean, but you're learning a ton of stuff. But doing the work as well with him, you're understanding way more about how he ticks. That's bloody interesting, if you ask me.
It is, yeah. That's what I'm interested in.
So, I think you guys are brilliant. And to hell with let the other ones struggle through, and what happens in dogs' lives, and I'll be very brief with this, is they will tolerate something and tolerate it and tolerate it, and then boom, you know, it's that whole thing. My dog loved kids. Oh, never an issue. 5-year-old was always getting cuddles. Was the horse in the kitchen when the baby was riding. Never had a piece of aggression, and then all of a sudden it snapped. That poor bloody dog for all those years. But you're aware, and he's helping you become aware, because he's like, yeah, the world's not quite fitting me just now. So we're asking him to change his attitude to his society and culture that he lives in, and he's doing it. So I'm going to show you. So how do you feel about that answer, Mark?
Fine. Yeah. I mean, I've got no problems. I mean, yeah, you know, looking for you as the teacher, and what you're saying is making sense, and you know, we can relate to it. It's.
But you know, you would have got there yourself.
I'm not convinced. Maybe in my mind.
Yeah.
But not getting it, not
Validating it.
So yeah, I'm pleased we're moving forward.
Okay, so let me just talk about what dogs own. You know that, and I might have mentioned this before, dogs don't own anything apart from the space they're in. And you guys have all your fairy lights and your wee heart and your pictures and your fireplace and your house and all the rest of the clothes on your back. He just owns his space. So I'm going to show you how to claim space. And this is how dogs, let me just see if I've got the right angle here. I'm going to try and put this up a bit.
This is Bruce's room, Trish.
He's got a room.
Well, it's the dining room, but this is where he sleeps in here.
Yeah, so
It's
his bit, but in his head he doesn't own it. So
no.
so as a dog, that's weird. Let me just. How can we get this so we can see? That's a better position, isn't it? Right, so in his head, because he's a dog, and it's all instinct, I'll try it. I'll be struggling to tape this, but I'll put it here so that it gets something. Yeah, there. At least you'll hear me, because I'm going to move about. So in dog language, all they own is the space that they're in, okay? So when you take space off another dog, and you can see this in the pack when they work. Let's go. He's stretching. When they're in the pack and they work, they'll move into each other's space. And when you take space, that's very powerful. And it's quite, to us, innocuous, but it's powerful to the dog. So the way to claim space off a dog and put across a really powerful leadership message is this. I'll let him have a wee stretch, George. And then, so I'm going to hold on. Let me just see. I'm going to hold on to this leash just for guidance, but I'm not going to pull him about. But if you just watch what I do, so he's standing there, I'm going to walk into his space. See how he moved off my feet, my legs there?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get him into the kitchen here. So I'm not going to pull him with the leash. I'll just use this for guidance. He's completely obsessed with my toys. So now he's sort of trying to figure out, but I want those toys. Don't know if you can see.
Yeah, see.
So he would want to maybe dodge round me. And you see, so I'm stopping here because I'm saying, that's fine, you can go in there, that's where I want you. And he's going to try and come out. And I'm going to move in. Now, body language. I'm going to tip the camera up so you can actually see me when I'm talking. Hey, because then you're just talking to my feet. There we go. So there we go. So, actually that's better. So what I'm doing when I'm taking space off him, if I do this, your body appears weak. Dogs know that, they feel that's weak. And I hate to do this, but if you, because my previous job in criminal justice, I was working with a lot of serious criminals. So a lot of my job was studying their behaviour and what they, So Ted Bundy, for instance, they spent ages trying to identify why he picked on certain targets. And they had students walking by and he was sitting in a room and he picked one out. And it would be someone maybe with just a drooped shoulder slightly. Or they weren't quite, they were walking as if they might have a sore back. Some weakness that he was aware of that we wouldn't even see. Maybe as therapists we'd be able to spot that. Dogs feel that weakness. So I always think, the minute you think about your core, you kind of engage it a bit. And when you engage that core, it helps you pull back your shoulders a bit and hold your shoulders up. So dogs feel that kind of inner strength. So you can see my body language walking straight into him and I'm holding my body up. So he stopped there. All I do is just shuffle into his feet and he walks back. He's starting to see, oh, she's claiming space. And then I take the pressure off him. Oh, stop wrestling about. So he's going to want to come out. And he's looking to me now. So I don't know if you can see his face, but this is me being relevant to him. He's waiting for a signal. So I'm going to hold myself like this. It's called the follow through. So you just hold, and then what will happen is he'll wait, and then eventually he'll sit down. You know, he'll just be looking, okay, she's saying I'm not to come out. So you sit down. Shh. You're making rustly noises. Snuck out. Because I wasn't believable then, I was engaged with him. And then you hang on. I'm just looking for a longer line, actually. Give me a minute. So I've got a long line here. I'm ignoring I'm jumping up like this because it doesn't really, it's not part of this exercise to worry about that. So I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to walk into his space, do it a bit quicker this time. Now, some dogs will do this with their parent and then they think it's a game because you come across as if you're not serious. Okay, no, I'm not saying anything. If I wasn't talking to you, I'd be silent doing this. In fact, I work mostly without saying anything. So, just watch me and I'll stop talking. You can't see this, but he's just sat down. So he's given me space. The dog that backs off and gives you space is very respectful to you. So that allows me to then do this. And now in my head I've got an invisible bubble. So the point of this is some people like it because it can give them a bit of control in their house. So their dog's not always jumping at the table or whatever if they're eating. So he's sitting there. And I'm able to come over here and sit down. So he's waiting on me saying, I'll bring you with me, see if you can see what I'm talking about here. You see? See he's sitting there?
Yeah.
And now you see I'm going into a down?
Yeah.
I didn't ask for anything. All I did was walk into his space. It's incredibly powerful, natural language to the dogs. So, think shoulders up. I'm not going in doing this. So my body language is strong. But more than that, my mind is strong. I'm believable. I'm saying to him, without saying anything, as a dog would do, I don't want you coming out of there. And there's no aversion to that. You see, there's no me shouting at him, tugging at him, holding him back. He's done it himself. So it's a gentle but strong reminder of who's in charge. It's equally the same with the walk, and we'll do more about the walk another time. But a structured walk is an excellent way of letting your dog see that you're the leader. Okay, so what now I'm going to do is call him out of there. Bruce, come. So he's come out on the release. Good, and he gets a wee treat. Now, what I'm going to do is use spatial pressure to claim this space off him and move him in to the doorway. Okay, you'll probably get a lot on my back, but you can't help that. So I just move in front of him. You guys will be doing this when you're here. And Karen, remind me before I go, I want to just talk about shadowing a wee bit. So I'm just going to move. He hears the chickens are outside that door. I can hear them. He can hear them clucking and I can hear them clucking. I'll just pick this up now. So I'm just moving. The dog with the most touches is the one in charge. So I'm having to touch him because he's sort of drawn to, he sees the mail in the letterbox and that's like freaking him out. Right, so now he's in there and I take the pressure off when he's where I want him. So I step back. So that's my communication to him that he's done what I wanted. It's like the reward, okay? So what he'd naturally try and do is come out of there, but because this dog is a quick learner in this respect. He's so attuned to natural dog behaviour, he may pick up this straight away. So I'll sit down here. So, yeah. So I don't know if you saw, he's just sat down because I moved in. Did I say we call this a follow through where you stand and wait until they relax? Because if you come away when you're still tuned to come out, then their state of mind hasn't changed. They're not accepting that that's what's to happen, which is, I just want them in there. So I could have him there as long as I want. They lie down, relax, and it's just as a result of body pressure and claiming his space. See how relevant I am. Now, that's easy to do, and we talked about environmentals. In here, he's used, so that's what you want, that's great. So I'll let him have a wee bit of rest, and then I'll ask them over. But you see, he is in no doubt about what I want from him. That makes him feel confident. Yeah. Clarity of language, and there was no words used. In fact, the words I'm using are to you, which is normally a distraction. But once you've got your dog like this, then you can take them out places and do this around. I don't mind him doing that because he's not over the threshold. Now I'm going to go in. So, and talk about love. I mean, when a dog starts to understand language, that's when I feel all the emotions that you would feel normally, and they feel that as well. They know. So he thinks I called him there because of my hand movement. So what I'm going to do is, he's still listening to chickens. When he relaxes a bit, I'm going to call him out. So when you first practice this, you do it just for a short time, so they're not thinking, oh, she's never going to come back to you, because they kind of doubt that you really mean it. Does she mean it? So also, I can use more space to control him, so I don't have to go as close. All I did was turn my body there, and it stopped him from coming through. So that's I suppose body language. If you want to look assertive, shoulders like this. If I work with a frightened, insecure dog, I turn my shoulders on and crouch down and make myself seem less authoritative, so the dogs then aren't so worried about. Okay. Brewska? Yes! You hear the chickens. He's like, there's chickens in here? Good boy! Okay, so you can move. It's a really fun exercise actually to see how easily it is to move into your dog's space and move them around the house. And as long as you've got them, somehow you've got them at the end of a line there to stop them zipping past you or making it into a game. But it's way powerful in their psychology. Okay, right, I'd like to get him out quick. Oh, Karen, let me just cover this. When you come to do your one-to-ones with him, I would like to, because I think you would benefit because of the way that you're trying to figure out the dog training stuff. I think you benefit from part of that being a bit of a shadow as well, so watching me and working with the other dogs anyway. I mean, I try and do that as much as possible, so it's not, because it's easier to work with dogs that aren't yours because you're not emotionally attached to them, so it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But I think you would benefit from that because these have got different issues, all these dogs, even my ones, they're here because they have a reason. What are you doing, Kira?
Shall I come on now then?
But I think you would enjoy that as well, I think.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Okay, so before I sign off, how do you feel that went?
Brilliant, yeah, fantastic.
Are you gonna, is Mark gonna be okay, or is he gonna, are you gonna be okay? Are you sure?
Do you know what I was doing to him this morning? I was clearing space.
Oh, were you? You're chucking him out the bed.
It's really funny. He always stands in my way, and Bruce does. It's really interesting. They're always in doorways, or I don't like being blocked in. So I've been
Good.
trying to do it this morning.
Okay.
Thanks, Trish. Have a great day.
You
Great
too.
walk,
But you've got nothing to worry about. I think you're great, you two.
How's he doing with the chickens in the horses? Do you do
Good.
any-
Yep. He's good with the, I mean, but he is making sure he's good. So he's good. So every when we take out, we're feeding all the chickens, but I'm not convinced if it wasn't me yet that he wouldn't try. So that's why we have to go through the repetition, and then I hand over the reins and supervise Olivia and Andrew and all the rest of it. But he's doing very good, no issues whatsoever, and he's put himself back into place. Yeah. Can you see him? He's hey little boy. Yes you are. With the colours. He's absolutely no intention there with the chickens, but I know when it's dead on, when I can put food out like spaghetti and all the chickens and all my dogs feed with the chickens, so they're all. He, I think, is a wee bit far from, he's not quite at that stage yet where he can do it himself. But of course you're going to, and I'll show you how to do it, you're going to have to set that boundary when you go home because it's a different environment. But it will not take him long to learn because you'll be like, no, this is what we did at Trisha's. But I wouldn't take the chance of taking him home and saying, say hello to your chicken pals. Yeah.
Do you have any videos of dog behaviour? So slow down, so Mark could recognise the subtle things that happen between, say, a dog walking along, sees another dog not down to attack, but the actual dog body language.
Well, with your own dog on leash, because obviously I don't want. I have videos of dogs reacting. I mean, even the Normans, you can see Normans. But what happens is they go from this, ears down, and then all of a sudden, is he there?
I know, yeah. It's for Alec really, because you're not really
Can you see me, Mark? I can't see you, but I'm assuming you. So the dog's walking along, and you start to notice there's a stillness, and then it goes from nose to eyes, and then at that moment, that's when you correct. When you spot that happening so he's not even allowed to look at dogs right now because that bit leads to the next bit. So I want him ignoring them. He will get to the point where he can then look at them and engage and all the rest of it, and I know he's fine with mine, but that's sort of stiffening, and the ears coming up, you'll see a wee crinkle there, and you'll start, if you take enough time if you've got him on a leash, and you can watch him from in front, so you can see what actually happens when he starts to become aware of a dog. It's all very subtle, but it's there, and once you spot it, you will never forget it. You'll spot it every time. But then get used to spotting it from behind, because obviously he's on a leash, you're either looking down on him, but very rarely are you doing that. And you'll notice even his neck will change, and his shoulders will come up very slightly, and you'll start to spot it. That's when you come in with the tone or the correction.
You'll be aware of the other dog anyway before he is, hopefully.
Yeah.
But there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be times when he'll see a dog and you'll see a dog. So what? You just sort that out, and then restart it. There was a dog in Dobie's that first time we were in the cafe, and he was very calm in Dobie's, and there was a family sitting in the dog area without a dog, and then these two ladies came in, and the dog was pulling, and sort of a happy dog but very excited, and it was pulling towards him, and I immediately got up because I knew that woman wasn't controlling that dog, and he went, and he was reactive. That was the first time he was out, so you know that's part of it. That's why you have a dog trainer to go through all those things, and all I did was get him out, and the owner's going, oh, never mind, Lucy. He doesn't want to say hello to you. Oh, never mind. You go. And what I did is I went round with him and stood just about 10 feet away and got him quiet. And I worked with him a bit, so I became relevant again and took him straight in. So what happens when you have a dog fight or an altercation like that is the dogs in that state of mind are taken apart and nothing's resolved. So the next time they see that dog, they take from where they left off, that whole argh. So it's really important to get a nice calm frame of mind. Even if the daft owners don't, you're only responsible for your dog. Thank goodness for your dog. He's lucky. You're responsible owners.
But, yeah, I mean, it was probably only a week or two before we came up to see you. We live on a very quiet road, and there's two horses, women on horses, and we've got a dog off the lead. The dog's
and a horse in tow.
Oh yeah, and the horse in tow. So she's holding onto a horse. So I know what it's like. There's nowhere to run. So I get to the side of the road, and I actually ended up picking him up because I didn't want him escaping out. And she said, "Oh, wait, just put him down. And I don't bother engaging and trying to explain.
No,
you
don't.
Don't my dog. Yours is off the lead.
Yeah.
You've got a horse in tow, and you just got to ignore them because sometimes you can get into a confrontation with owners, can't you?
That's right.
Stupid or irresponsible they are.
You could have been attacked maybe by the other dog.
Maybe, but it to me was trying to take control and take him out of that situation.
No, I think you did the right thing. I would do that. But you'll get a doggy doe with your training, which keeps other dogs away. So you have that, and you just bring it in, and then you go with the doggy doe, and they go away, and you don't have to worry about them. The owners say, "What are you doing to my dog?" You just say, "Your dog was coming in to attack us. I'm taking care of us," and that's all. I know. Oh, maybe in the past I've had issues with owners, but they all think they know better about your dog. But you are risk of it. You know that could be a problem. Those people could have been killed because he would have been at their horse's hooves. And I don't have issues with him. He's not doing that with me because I'm relevant, and you will be too. And also, he needs to be used to, maybe it would be different with horses going past your house. Maybe if horses went past this house and it wasn't my horses, he'd be... So I would have to do the work then to correct that and stop it.
Yeah, it's been a mixed thing with horses. So sometimes I've been a horse, I've just got to the side of the road, made him sit, held on to him, and he's been fine. But I
been responsible indirectly for 3 deaths of people, 2 deaths. So don't regret. What you did was right. That was right. But we're going to arm you with certain things in certain circumstances to keep that at bay. You wouldn't be able to use a doggy donut around the horses, it'll spook them, but you've got his e-collar now and all the rest of it. There was an instance, was it yesterday? Oh, we were in Dolby's yesterday, and I'll make this really brief because we will have to go out. And we saw this little dog, and it was one of these little teddy bear dogs, but it was a fair size, and I took him by and I was just talking to him on the e-collar at 2, so I just do that tick, 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 I'm here. So it's basically saying, be assured, I'm with you, and also I'm not wanting that behaviour, you know, everything's fine. And it was like he didn't see it, and I worked him round it, and I let him see it, and I did doggy, and he was perfectly fine. And then I walked around and came in from another angle, perfectly fine. By the time I came back to that dog again, it was surrounded by 9 people, 4 kids, all grabbing at the dog. Dog's sort of doing this, the owner's letting that happen. She's got a mask on, there's no social distancing, and that's the worst thing you can do to a dog. Now, then a lady with 2 children turned to me, and I was like, a foot away from the people, 4 feet away from the dog. And they were all go crazy with this dog. They turned to me, I had him sitting nice and looking, and the kids were there, and she went, leave that dog, he's training. And they left me. Because he had his training harness on. It's key. Everyone thinks it's a free-for-all. It's kind of like going to the chip shop, and you're a teenager, and all your school pals surround you, and you get 1 chip because they're all in like the bag. When you take a dog out, and especially a puppy, with no indication that you've not to touch, it's a free-for-all, a frenzy. I mean, there was kids going in there and grabbing it, little kids grabbing at its fur, and the dogs. It was horrible. It's horrible to look at. But they never came near me because I had his training harness on, and it just basically says in training. And so so the way in which you present your dog will affect others. Okay, so. Yeah.
Does your dog bite? So he puts his hand out, he bites him, he says, I thought your dog didn't bite, that's not my dog.
So yeah, I would get a harness for him that says
Auntie Gloria says to me, she's had people say, does your dog bite? She says, only if I tell him to.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's funny. Right, we're going to go and catch some daylight, and this is recorded. It takes me a good hour or so to download videos and then to transfer, so there'll be waiting times, plus we've got to work. Okay?
Lovely, thank you.
See you later.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you, bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Ruth.
I'll wait a minute so you can see it. Can you see
Bye,
it?
Lucy.
Right, darling. See you later.
See you later, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Try to switch.
When you